Hello, everyone. On the occasion of International Women's Day 2022, Swan Livelihood, in collaboration with WICCI Delhi Start-up Council, welcomes you all in the panel discussion on women entrepreneurship and skill development. Beat the bias. My name is Vidhi.
And my name is Mansi, and we are your host of the day.
Let me start this event with a brief on the two hosting organizations. SWAN, Skilled Workforce Advancing Nation Livelihood, is a startup based at Delhi that aims to build capabilities of youthful workforce through specially designed training and learning programs.
WICCI, Women's India Chamber of Commerce and Industry, is a national business chamber launched to boost women's entrepreneurship and business through greater engagement with government, institutions, global trade, and networks. The WICCI Delhi Startup Council endeavors to bring the women entrepreneurs of Delhi NCR region under a common umbrella to strengthen the startup ecosystem.
In today's session, the keynote address would be Miss Stephanie Pinker, and our other esteemed guests are Dr. Punita Duhan, Director, Delhi Skills and Entrepreneurship University, Vivek Vihar Campus, Delhi.
Also with us today is Ms. Urvisha Koradia, the founder and CEO of Pitch Books and the national president of WICCI Start-up Council.
Our third panelist is Ms. Priya Thachadi, who is an entrepreneur, investor, and a gender advocate. She is also the co-founder and CEO of Vlllgro Philippines and the co-founder of Unlock Impact. We had one more speaker, Noleen, with us, who is an impact entrepreneur, philanthropist, and a consultant. She was unable to join us today. However, she couldn't be there due to medical reasons.
Now let me start the event with the key address by Ms. Stephanie Pinker, who is our mentor from the Cherie Blair Foundation for Women and is also a trader at Global Hedge Fund. She could not be with us due to some preoccupation. However, we would be playing the video of her keynote, which she has shared with us.
years for my entire career. Good evening, all. Thank you so much, Meghna Joshi, for inviting me to be the keynote speaker today. As Meghna might have already described my role, I have been liaising with her for the past year on behalf of Cherie Blair Foundation as a mentor. So for a bit of a background for me, I have been in financial services for the best part of 14 years for my entire career. It has been a long process. It's been a lot of experience, but it has been
So there's been some technical issues, I think, on our end. So I think we'll play the video at the end. So moving on to our discussion, we would now like to invite Dr. Punita Duhan to be our first guest speaker of the day and share her thoughts with us or with our audience on the theme. It would be interesting to hear from her as how she has had been able to beat the bias in her own professional journey. Now, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Vidhi. Good evening, everyone. I'm really happy to be a part of this discussion. And first of all, I would like to thank Meghna for inviting me. We have been introduced for a very short span of time, but she has really made an impact on me. And when I browsed through this startup of hers, Swan, Skilled Workforce Advancing Nation, I was really amazed to see the wonderful work you people are doing, motivating young people, helping them to achieve their aspirations through skilling. And you started with the resource poor people, and now you have expanded to include others as well who want to skill themselves and want to have a sustainable career. I really heads off to this young team under the mentorship of Meghna. And I would also like to thank WICCI and Delhi Startup Council for giving me this opportunity to be here. I'm the only, speaker who is coming from academic background. I'm not an entrepreneur per se, but of course, I have been, a part of entrepreneurial education, which is very important for the, entrepreneurs in setting up their businesses and, getting ahead. Entrepreneurship has been largely a male bastion. And but of late, what we are
Good
observing is that. Uh, should I continue?
Yes, ma'am. Please continue. Please
Okay.
continue.
So, but largely of late, we have been seeing that women are coming forward in a big way. The big example is the ladies on the screen with me. Many congratulations to you all for breaking the barriers, gender barriers, basically, and becoming strong leaders for the world. And the world really needs compassionate leaders like us. What happens is, when we look at the statistics, in America, 4 out of every 10 businesses, 42% of businesses are being owned by women now. And they are, making trillions of money, adding trillions of dollars to the economy, American economy. When we talk about the developing nations, more than 50% of women, 70 more than 17% are already into entrepreneurship, and more than 35% aspire to be entrepreneur. That means more than 50% of women, they are into entrepreneurship or want to be entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurship per se is bringing a lot of economic development. It leads to employment generation, it leads to GDP enhancement, it leads to inclusion, social inclusion, growth. And women entrepreneurship, obviously, it has an added component to that, empowerment of the women, which is very important. But all the in India also, we can see the number of women entrepreneurs is growing. But if we look at the percentage, still the percentage of women into entrepreneurship worldwide and in India too is lesser compared to the men. And when we come from developed nations to lesser developed nations, this percentage is lesser. India is no exception here. We also have lesser and lesser women entrepreneurs, but with every passing year, number is increasing. And one of the factors which has come through researchers is the gender bias. Apart from the other factors, one common factor which is emerging from the studies is a gender bias, which is a big deterrent to the entrepreneurial journey of women. And this social construct, gender is a social construct which has led to the generation of stereotypes, which has led to the generation of certain roles being assigned to men and women, has created unfavorable environment for women. And we really need to break this bias. So when Meghna and I was speaking, Meghna asked me to speak about my journey, and how did I break the biases, gender biases. But I told her no. Instead of my journey, my mother's journey perhaps would be more interesting and more motivating for everyone to know, because she has motivated me also a lot. My mother, I would definitely like to share it here. My mother comes from a rural background. She was born into a say upper middle family, but the family was not really as it used to be in earlier times. Not many people were really interested in educating their daughters. Same was the case with her, but she was, very keen to study. And she wanted to become a doctor. Though she couldn't become, she ended up becoming a government school teacher. And she was married off by the time she finished her matriculation. The village in which she was born, the school was only till fifth, but the other village in which her uncle was staying, the school was still matric. So she asked her parents to send her to her uncle's place so that she can complete her matric. And there she completed her matric. And after that, she was married off. So when she came to my father's home, she was only a matriculate, but she wanted to study. And she was, hesitantly, because her own family was not really supportive of this. She hesitantly asked my father first, and he too was not so sure whether how his parents are going to take it. So one day she decided and went to speak to my grandfather. And imagine this woman, young woman, she was married at an early age, hardly she was 18 or 19 years old, who knew completely well that even her own family was not going to support this decision of hers. And at that point of time in my family, the parda system was there, ghungat. I belong to Haryana, and there in my community, still people have this practice of, using parda. So, but she decided one fine day that I must go and speak. Let me see. And she told my grandfather, I want to study further. He immediately called my father and told him she wants to study. My grandfather, was a visionary. He himself was illiterate, but knew the importance of education for all, for men, women, irrespective of gender. So she was enrolled in a college, and this was a time of offline education. There was no online education, and she was in a joint family. She had to support him. And my father's siblings, they are all younger to him. Majority are younger to him. So they were also there because my father was the first one to move from a village to a city. So they were all there to get education. They were there. We three sisters were there. And here was a lady who wanted to pursue her education without any modern gadgets to save her. No washing machines, no dishwashers, no people, not many people to even help her. But she was persistent that I need to get educated. She even flunked in her exams the year I was born. I was just a month-year old, and she used to feed me and go to sit for exams. Obviously, after this, giving a birth to a child, you are not having enough strength to study and support and all these things. She flunked in her exam, but even that could not deter her. She completed her master's, and that too, first division. I remember the days when she was doing her master's. She used to give me a book. Obviously, I was a child, I couldn't read, but it was like, you keep it in your lap and let me revise. So I remember distinctly keeping a book, big book in my lap, and she was, telling me something and all. I was not understanding anything, but I knew Mama is doing something. And later on, she did her B.Ed, and B.Ed that time was not available in her town. It was in another town. She was sent to a hostel to study. So in many ways, she was the first one to have a postgraduate degree in her family, and in my family too. She was the first and she was perhaps the first one to go to a hostel. So in many ways, she broke various biases. My family broke various biases. Nobody was, it was unheard of sending a mother of 3 children to a hostel to pursue her education. They all supported her. After that came the decision to do a job. She wanted to do a job. But here, my father was like, with such, so many family responsibilities, perhaps it will be difficult for you. You should not do a job. And my salary was also lesser compared to what he was earning. But she was like, let me. And there was a condition put that, see, don't ask us to support you, that aaj mujhe chhod kar ke aiye school mein mujhe lekar. She said, no, I will not ask anything of this type. And mark my words, she never asked. Later on, we all started to help her, realizing that okay, she is contributing for our welfare and she's doing a good job. And she became a government school teacher. She was given an award for being a good teacher. And I remember her helping, poor girl students. They used to come, who were bright, brilliant. They used to come to our house on Sundays to study. And obviously she was asking us to help them out. And I was like, Mommy, why do you have to have a school on Sunday as well? She said, okay, if you don't want to help, fine, I will help them. She was washing clothes and making them sit around her, and in between helping them. So that was the kind of, vision, you can say, she had, or she wanted. She herself has been through a lot of biases. She wanted to help these young, women, young girls and boys as well, to come out of these biases, to excel in their lives. And many of them are doing jobs now. They still come to our house. And even today, when she's retired, when I go home, always, it's a perpetual feature. Somebody from the neighborhood will come with certain books. अच्छा दीदी आ गई है, अब तो हम वो फला फला क्वेश्चन ना हमसे सॉल्व नहीं हुआ था दीदी, आंटी ने कहा था जब आप आओगी तो आप सॉल्व कर दोगे. So see, this kind of, things, which helps us a lot. I learned a lot from her. Multitasking, how to have a balance between family and job. I did my PhD very late, and it was she who motivated me that hota rahega, you go. I also did it, full time. She asked me, she motivated me to go, stay in a hostel, and complete it. So this is the kind of motivation. This is the kind of strong ladies who are helping us to break the biases. So yes, of course, we need to break the biases on this entrepreneurial journey as well. We need to be persistent with focused goals, and we need to these society is not going to change so soon. Even today, like I'm talking about the era of my mother, but even when we were growing up, we also has had to face certain biases. Even today in our jobs, we face those biases. लेडी है कैसे करेगी, अच्छा कर नहीं पाएंगी. Leadership, when we come to the leadership positions, many people, especially the male colleagues and male subordinates, they do not like to listen to us. Then we have to have our way around. And I really learned a lot from her, that how not to confront people, rather try to have a solution around it. Because if you keep on confronting people, you will be diverting your energies on smaller issues. We are there to win a war, not to win a battle. So lose a battle, win a war. So that was something I learned from her, that okay, work around it. So and apart from that, what researchers have indicated us is that entrepreneurial education, that can really make a difference in the success of an entrepreneur, be it male, female, irrespective of the gender. So because we are concerned about, we are more focused about the women here, so naturally this entrepreneurial education and skilling can really help the women entrepreneurs a lot. And yes, the theme around which you were, International Women Day theme, that break the bias, that the world should be free of stereotypes, should be free of discrimination. We should be celebrating and valuing the difference, not creating stereotypes around that, is really need of the hour, in need of the day. And we at DSU also have this vision to create, to prepare our students for an entrepreneurial journey. We are there to help the students to make a sustainable society. So we are there to help our students to get this entrepreneurial education, to acquire the skills. We are there to help all the students, irrespective of any discrimination, even on the basis of gender, to help them in going on their wonderful journeys, be it in industries, in job seeking, or be it in their entrepreneurial journeys. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your words of wisdom. We would now like to invite our second guest speaker of the day, Ms. Urvisha Koradia. Ma'am, we request you to kindly share your insights on the highs and lows on being a woman entrepreneur.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you, Dr. Punita. That was a lovely insight and, nice to know about the background. Thank you, Swan and Meghna, for having me here today, along with so many great, inspiring women on this panel. It is indeed a pleasure to know, about the great work that they all have been doing in their respective fields and respective countries. So every year, International Women's Day is celebrated on 8th of March, and to spread the message of gender equality and work together in making a better society where there is no gender bias. This year, the United Nations declared the theme of the day as Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. Since our topic today is on women entrepreneurship and skills, I would attempt to speak on women entrepreneurship leading to gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. Thus, I'll make sure that I cover both the topics in some manner, and along with that, I'll definitely talk about my own journey as an entrepreneur, because having personally gone through the journey, I think I'm able to better understand the various challenges that women entrepreneurs face. So, and that's the reason how, in fact, Pitch Books all started. So, coming back to our topic, women have a significant role to play when it comes to caring for the planet and building a sustainable future. Now, achieving sustainable development is dependent on ensuring women's empowerment and for promoting gender equality. And women entrepreneurship is the way to make women economically empowered. And economic involvement of women and their ownership stimulates growth and reduces disparities. So obviously an improved livelihood for women will come through their active and true participation in entrepreneurship. Sustainability has gained a lot more importance, in the recent past with the effects of climate change becoming more obvious. Being sustainable has started to become more of a norm than just a lifestyle. According to a study by the National Sample Survey Organization, only 14% of businesses in India are run by women. So you can see there's a lot more to be done to make sure that women are empowered to take up the challenges of entrepreneurship. And you won't believe, but a lot of them are driving the sustainability agenda, in various sectors such as textiles, cosmetics, healthcare, food and beverages. So, in fact, companies, I talk about some of the examples also, which are women-led, and they are making organic, eco-friendly, sustainable products. And women are found to run companies that help in making green buildings by using agri products as well. So, women entrepreneurship is not just a source of income, but it's also a way to achieve the SDGs of the UN through ensuring gender equality. And I talk about several factors that are important to sort of motivate these women entrepreneurs, right from your strong family support, social positive social attitude, adequate training, government support, good social networking, easy registration procedures, proper financial and loan support. All these things are really what is sort of helping, building the entire ecosystem, especially for women. Now, the government of India has taken great strides in promoting entrepreneurship in women by providing obviously various schemes, through the Startup India government portal and even having separate wings and cells for women. So it definitely has been one of the front runners in the world as a country to take such steps. Now, on the other hand, there are obviously certain challenges that are faced by women entrepreneurs, not just in India, but globally, where you have social barriers, lack of information, limited access to business support, limited access to funding, lack of entrepreneurial skills. These are one of the most common challenges that are being faced. And to top it all, if we are saying that we need to promote women entrepreneurship for sustainable businesses, um, it does come at a cost. So there is more support that is needed for them. There were companies like, there is a company called Clan Earth, where the startup offers a wide range of eco-friendly products, and right from lifestyle products like bamboo toothbrushes and coconut shell candles, that have been selling well on e-commerce platforms, etc. And not just India, we are seeing in other countries as well. I mean, the situation is bad in Ukraine, but Ukraine had so many passionate women entrepreneurs who are adopting new approaches to business and putting environment and people first. So, in fact, they were the ones to, launch mini farms, green for you, etc., where they grew herbs, lettuce, microgreens, etc. So, what I'm trying to say is that uh, women, if they are empowered, they can really drive sustainable businesses in the right manner if they're given the right support and guidance along with training. Now, as for the National Skill Development Corporation, a large number of women need to be trained, since currently only 2% of the female workforce is formally trained in India. So skilling is a lifelong process. So skill upgradation, reskilling are fundamental components, and will always be needed as we move towards a more digitalized world. Now, the real challenge would therefore be to train women to adapt to new technologies, which can eventually support sustainable ideas for the planet. So, government across the world, as well as various developmental organizations, are actively undertaking promotion of women entrepreneurs through various schemes, incentives, and promotional measures. Now, women today are more willing to take up activities that were once considered the preserve of men, and have proved that they are second to no one with respect to the contribution to the growth of the economy. So, women entrepreneurship must be molded properly with entrepreneurial traits and skills to meet the various challenges in trends and in the global market. And now coming to setting up pitch books, when I started in 2014, back then I would say that there weren't any companies in this space where they were supporting startups to, basically guiding them. So they were unaware of how to create documents or pitch to investors. So we were the ones who started helping them create stories based on their ideas, create powerful pitch decks with financial models, valuations, making them explain how to pitch to investors to get funds from, venture capitals, angel investors, etc. And what we have seen is, because we have been working globally, helping startups across sectors and for obviously men and women, the challenges that women entrepreneurs are particularly facing is to do with marketing activities and technical knowledge. Apart from that, the legal and regulatory requirements. So we have been supporting all these women entrepreneurs to, first of all, get themselves registered on the government portal of Startup India. Along with that, under the WICCI banner, we are creating a lot of awareness programs so that more and more women entrepreneurs come on board to take that initiative. So as an entrepreneur in my initial days, I had to manage a lot of things single-handedly, constantly being on the toes with latest development of services being offered, upskilling in terms of the kind of content we are providing, making sure our team members are trained, and today, in fact, a lot of data and information is already available. There are seminars, there are webinars, networking sessions. So it's a lot more easier for women entrepreneurs to come and break that bias of just men-led businesses, especially for sustainable businesses, which is going to be the need of the hour. So I would just like to conclude by saying that it is the entire ecosystem which will have to put in the work, to come together to transform the way women are perceived in society. Boosting women entrepreneurship cannot be achieved in silos, be it in the home where family plays an extremely important role, in the development of women, or with the initiatives of the government, which is prioritizing the agenda of empowerment. So I think, WICCI and many other, organizations are doing their best in terms of skilling and providing that basically. So thank you once again, and wishing everybody, happy Women International Day again.
Thank you, ma'am, for your words of wisdom. Our third esteemed guest for today is Miss Priya Thachadi. We would really like to know, ma'am, your inspirational journey of being an entrepreneur, investor, and a gender advocate. Over to you now.
Sure. Thank you so much. And first of all, again, thank you so much to Swan, to Meghna for really getting me here, and to the Delhi Startup Council and WICCI for, really providing this great opportunity to just share our stories, right? It's really wonderful. I think, International Women's Day is, one day, but it's a great reminder about what we are fighting for, right? And it's a gentle ask of gender equality. And we've made so many strides. I think, listening to Dr. Punita's story of her mother, really kind of gave me goosebumps to kind of where we have all reached, and, how as generations have progressed, we've been able to stand on the shoulders of what other women have, paved for us. And I think, really we need to take a moment to acknowledge that. We may not do that very deliberately often. So this, I think, is a great day to acknowledge that. I think, in my introduction, there are three titles, right, that really come in there: as an investor, as an entrepreneur, a gender advocate. If you asked me maybe, 7 or 8 years ago even, I was none of these, right? I was neither an investor nor an entrepreneur, and not a very proactive gender advocate. And all of this has happened to me sort of in this, the last sort of 7 or 8 years. It's a lot of things have actually brought me to where I am today. But specifically, today I'll talk a little bit about bias in a different context, and maybe where it's kind of appeared across my life. I'm here today in all of these roles because I've had the opportunity, or I've been empowered to beat the bias across all of these various stages that we experience it. And I think there are two types of biases, right? There is really like the conscious, really in your face, where somebody's telling you can or cannot do this. And there's also a second type, which is unconscious biases, and that really creeps in. And very often we don't have the tools to even recognize it. It may be within ourselves, it may be someone else, and that's always even trickier to sort of navigate. I set out about 6-7 years ago now. I was kind of a little bit mad and crazy, like entrepreneurs are, to set up like 2 companies. I moved to the Philippines to set up a company there, sort of taking or borrowing a model that worked well in India called Vlllgro, which is an incubator and investment firm. And at the same time, I decided to also kind of join with my best friend and start another company here in India focused on kind of social impact. And the reason I did this is that until then, I was really searching for my path, right? I was trying to constantly, I didn't know I was going to be an investor and an entrepreneur or a gender advocate, but I was always trying to find ways to make a difference. And that's really, I think, has gotten me to this path. And sometimes we don't always start out with a very clear idea of this is how I'm going to create change. But, if you are a mission-driven, purpose-driven person, by whatever influences that we have, at whatever age we may become purposeful, that we kind of find our path, right? I think we face biases in sort of 3 kind of areas in our life, and it starts, I think, with what both Dr. Punita and Urvisha said. It's immediately where you face it, maybe very conscious, like explicit biases in your immediate surrounding, right? This could be in your family, could be with the people that you interact on a regular basis. I have to acknowledge my privilege and sort of my stroke of luck, because I come from a house full of women. I have 2 older sisters. I have a strong mom, and they absorbed a lot of these biases on my behalf as being sort of the youngest child, and they kind of paved the way for me and sort of broke down a lot of walls and barriers for me to sort of march ahead. And then I also kind of got very, very lucky to marry a feminist who was raised by a strong mom and who actually allowed me to recognize a lot of unconscious biases within me. I know that not everybody is fortunate to have that, but sometimes someone in our lives can, throw us a rope to kind of get us out of that situation. And the one that we face at home in our immediate environment is the hardest, right? Because it really strikes you emotionally. It really kind of, can really kind of, break down your legs. It kind of, it really takes a lot to get out of that. But if you are lucky enough, or if you find the support, or if you have access to the education to do that, then we go out into the professional world, into our work world, into maybe our education world. And that's where I think we all navigate even more of the unconscious biases. And for me as a woman entrepreneur, and even as an investor, right? I'm an investor who does not come from a banking background, who does not come from investment banking, who didn't come from financial institutions. And I still continue to face a lot of biases because of that, once people get to know you. But there's a lot of biases that I kind of, had about myself, right? The lack of confidence, the imposter syndrome that you kind of face. And these are things that, we have to navigate as women entrepreneurs, and it takes time. And it's only through sort of repetitive failures that we kind of, figure out how to deal with it. In the workplace or wherever you are, dealing with your profession, there'll be multiple kind of, you'll face this regularly. This might be in small microaggressions where you don't even know how to respond when it kind of appears. It might be that that promotion that you didn't get because for whatever reason you were seen as not capable, even though you met all your targets. And also that for me, for example, I went to an event a few years ago with a colleague, and we did a lot of meetings together, and we're sort of peers. And I kind of was very shocked to see that, I was constantly cut off in my sentences. I was, not allowed to finish. I was saying, I was already running my company for 2 or 3 years doing that. And, I kind of just decided in my mind, I'm never going to just do meetings with this person again. I don't really need to, I run my own business. I know what I'm doing. Very interestingly, a couple of weeks ago, I heard from a third person that the person who was in these meetings with me thought about it as a learning opportunity for me and teaching me how to do meetings. So the same exact scenario was, experienced by 2 of us very, very differently, right? The person who was in the meeting with me really thought, he was teaching me, and he was kind of showing me the ropes. Well, I had the worst experience. I honestly never wanted to engage with this person again, and I was really, really put off. This is how unconscious biases work, right? It creeps in because of certain assumptions that each of us have. And this could be us and it could be others. In this scenario, I never addressed it. I only kind of even analyzed it recently. It took me a long time to even understand. As an investor, I've walked into rooms where I've sat with a bunch of other suits and I felt small. Not because someone told me that you didn't know what you were doing, but actually it was my own sort of bias, right, against me. And it's taken me a long time to fight these mindsets that I have sometimes put on myself, and even acknowledging or becoming aware. And in these situations, there are a few things that I can do. I can talk to you about. The last thing I want to say is that then it's there out in the world, which is the harder one. It doesn't kind of affect you every day, but you'll come across it, right? You'll see it on YouTube videos that we watch or the news we watch, or you'll hear it in panels like this where it's happening to somebody else. Or it's out of your control. You feel really that, you can't do anything. When I was a college student, I remember my friends and we wanted to be ushers. We wanted to earn some extra money. And we got recruited by an agent to say, okay, all of these really smart young women come and be part of this event. And everybody started getting placed, and I was the only one who didn't. And the main reason was because I was dark skinned, and the agent had got this kind of advice that morning that only light skinned people really should be the ushers. And I was really okay by then, because as anyone growing up in India as a dark skinned person, you kind of take this on your chin and walk away. But my friend Vedika, who was there with me, she was very, very upset, and she refused to take the job. And she said, okay, Priya, let's go and we'll go find a job ourselves. Of course, no one hired us. But that moment, what it taught me and what has kind of led 20 years later, right? What has taught me is that someone will stand up for you. You might not expect it. I never expected her to like fight for me in that moment. I didn't even care that much. But that taught me a big, valuable lesson that, we can stand up. When we see discrimination, we can call it out. It might be the smallest thing. It might not make a difference in that moment, like we didn't get the job or get paid. But that kind of put me on a path to recognize it and call it out and do something about it every single time. So there are, I would say, if I were to kind of summarize, there are two or three ways that, as a woman entrepreneur, as an investor, as a first-time investor, the way that I have been dealing with this. And if I were to kind of, the first one is sort of believing in yourself and being fearless and facing your failures. It is very hard, when as an entrepreneur, you constantly fail. I've had a very, very tough month. After running my businesses for a while, where we've lost a lot of contracts, or some things didn't come through. It's been very, very hard to pick myself up and come here and talk about it. But that's what you do. You have to go into this, and you have to find that inner strength, that inner warrior that you have somewhere especially when you're down. And I think I've been very fortunate to have a support system with my family to be fearless, right? Because I know that if I hit the rock bottom, that someone is going to throw me a rope and I can find my way back. I know that everyone is not fortunate enough for that, but we have to kind of figure out what might be that support system, right? It might be just yourself, right? It might be you waking up the next day and getting out of bed and saying, this is my purpose, and I will keep fighting for it. The second thing is through skilling. And I know that Meghna and I talk about this quite a bit, but all of these three roles that I'm playing, I didn't know much about gender because I came from, very supportive female sort of role models. I didn't know much about investing. I didn't know anything about being an entrepreneur because I was in jobs always. But the only way that you can do is upskill yourself. I've done a lot of self-study when I come across topics that I don't know, investments, I don't know anything. I really taught myself, I observed, I watched. So there are three things I would say: self-study. And I think as Dr. Punita and Urvisha was saying, there's a lot of amazing content out there that we can access today. We're very, very lucky. There are things online. So we can access that. And the third thing that I do very, very actively is learn from others. I learned so much already just being as part of this panel, right? To tell your story authentically, to learn from what others are saying. I think learning from others is a phenomenal way. We can observe meetings. We can, see how somebody is delivering something or how someone is going after something. So apart from sort of self-study, doing courses, I think learning from others is a powerful, powerful way. And it's something that, we as women do always. We watch our mothers, we, learn from our homes, and it's actually innate in us. So when we come to our professional spaces, when we are entrepreneurs, I think this is something that we can really excel at. Sometimes we just need to give ourselves the time to do it. And the last thing I would say is really finding your community. This is very, very important for women entrepreneurs. Let me tell you, it's a very, very lonely journey. I have a co-founder, but even then we find it very lonely, right? But there are so many other women entrepreneurs out there. There's so many other women, just, so much commonality in just a short discussion here. Let's find our tribe of supporters. Even if today you feel like you have no one, there are networks that you can join, right? At Unlock Impact, we recently started a platform called Nushu Network, Nushu being sort of a secret language, ancient language for women. And the reason that we did that, because, we started kind of facing all of these barriers as women entrepreneurs. And we are so frustrated along with our peers that there is just such difficult access to, it's so much harder to access financing, access capital as women entrepreneurs. So we really are focusing on helping women entrepreneurs be the best leader they can be. And I think that is super important as we continue to build our teams. Second is really accessing capital. There are just so many barriers. We can have a whole other session about it, but that's our focus. How can we help women entrepreneurs get money into their hands so they can go after and build the businesses that they want, right, on their own terms? And the last is to find sort of peers. So I'll pause there. The last thing I just want to say is that we're talking a lot about women, but this is a long journey, and we have to build on what women before us have done. But we have to do this, hand in hand with our male allies, and there are enough number of them out there. It doesn't always seem that way, but this is gender equality is not about one sex. It's not about men and women. It's about all types of genders. It's what, as I think Dr. Punita was saying, it's a social construct. And there's only way that we're going to create a level playing field is by doing this together. So, if there was kind of a message around Break the Bias, it is that we have to walk hand in hand. And I hope, we can chat a little bit more about it. But again, thank you so much for having me, and let's break the bias together.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your thoughts and giving valuable suggestions to all of us. We would now move over to some specific questions with the panelists. We'll start with Dr. Punita Duhan. Ma'am, we would like to know about the role that academics and academicians play in owning the skills of the young lady students, particularly those from rural India or from humble backgrounds. Had there been some significant change in the past few decades in women acquiring multiple skills?
See, education and skills, they play a very important role. We know when we are see empowerment, women empowerment, or empowerment of any person is related to the knowledge. Knowledge is one component. Financial independence is another. So that will also come through knowledge. So when we have knowledge, and we can apply that knowledge and create wealth using that knowledge, obviously it is going to inculcate confidence in the women. And yes, of course, there are multiple studies which indicate, and that's why we are trying to financial inclusion, empowerment of women through education, through skilling. Definitely it is there. There's definitely a positive impact, of course, and that's why government's focus is a lot more, is not only awarding degrees. It is now focuses on application of that knowledge to create something for themselves through entrepreneurial route, or by getting employment in some organized sectors. So definitely skilling is going to help us, and it has helped both rural as well as urban, and resource poor, resource rich, whosoever is skilled will go ahead in life, no doubts about that.
Very well said, ma'am. We would now move over to Miss Urvisha. Ma'am, we wish to know from you the common challenges being faced by the entrepreneurs, and how has pitch books helped in connecting entrepreneurs to investors?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So to answer your question, basically the most common challenges that entrepreneurs are facing is that there is one lack of funds and resources. Because if they are lacking in terms of capital, then they are unable to do marketing activities, because today, as you all know, in terms of digitalized world, where you need to spend a lot of money on digital marketing, creating brand awareness, PR activities, just to make sure that you are competing with the other brands in the market. So one major challenge is the lack of capital. Second is, I would say, knowledge about legal aspects and regulatory aspects. They are not sure as to what is the procedures to follow for registering themselves under the Startup India government portal, where they get a lot of benefits as startups. They get certified and recognized, where they get a lot of tax exemption benefits, etc. So I would say there is lack of awareness, lack of knowledge for that, and lack of funds. These are, I would say, the most important challenges that they face, and that's the reason they've been coming to pitch books. Pitch books, also, they are not aware of who to go to for getting funds. So you have a lot of venture capitalists, angel networks, HNIs, family offices that are now, prevalent, and they're upcoming. Earlier, there weren't incubators, there weren't accelerators that you keep hearing now. That's like the buzz that, okay, we are there to incubate or accelerate, etc. So what PitchBooks does is we help them create the right documents, which is pitch deck, their financial models with the projections, getting them the right valuation so that they're able to raise the right amount of funds, at least so that it lasts them for about a year or so, because the entire fundraising process is quite lengthy. It takes anywhere between 3 to 6 months to actually get the funds. So while there is lack of working capital needs, what we are trying to do is trying to help them quickly get these things in place and pitch to investors. So we are also connected with some of the venture capitalists, etc. So we personally send these documentations to them just to fasten the process and help them raise funds.
Thank you, ma'am. We would now move over to Ms. Priya. Ma'am, how does it feel to be a female investor? Generally, we have observed that the space is dominated by men. What made you start Vlllgro Philippines, and what are the sectors where it provides investment support?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think when we started sort of Vlllgro in the Philippines, we started sort of working on the ecosystem, right? And observed a lot of the challenges that Urvisha just spoke about. And we see the same thing here in India, right? Even despite having a mature ecosystem. I think this is like an issue that I personally feel very, very passionate about. And what we see, and if I were to sort of draw parallels, in the Philippines, 60% of businesses are led by women. In India, that is much, much lower, right? It's only about 20%. But what is interesting is that the challenges for women entrepreneurs remain the same. They're still, really out of the loop, out of networks that can actually give them connections to investors, whatever type it might be, loans or, venture capital firms, angel investors. There many times, there is information asymmetry, right? Like today in India, there are so many loan products, so many things that are going on, but lots of times, we don't have access to the information. You need to be startup ecosystems tend to be very privileged and fairly closed, unfortunately, and that's how it evolves. But the real maturity of an ecosystem is that any entrepreneur anywhere, irrespective of their background, can be judged based on their idea and their market potential. But it's unfortunately not that way, right? Because we are human beings, and there are systems that we've created by society that kind of keep some out. And some, not others. So for me, this was something that I observed very strongly in all of the work that we're doing in the incubation and acceleration, both here in India and in the Philippines. And the capital issue, it just keeps coming up. Despite all of the buzz of the last few years, the numbers haven't dramatically changed. It's improving for sure. There are more funds, there are more female investors. So for me, as a person working in the startup ecosystem, working so much with women entrepreneurs, I think we just have to roll our sleeves up and get into it, just to bring diversity of perspectives, bring voices of different types of women entrepreneurs. Because when we look at who is getting invested today, there are certain types, right? There are certain profiles of entrepreneurs, not just women entrepreneurs, that actually get access. And that really is the problem for me. And there's also a problem in the type of capital. Not everyone is venture capital doesn't suit everyone. So then what do you do? Most women entrepreneurs don't know. How do you prepare? Many don't have the assets or the collateral that they need to put up for a bank loan. So these problems, or even if there is a friendly product, you don't know about it. So these problems continue to exist. And that really was what drove me, that I was like, oh my God, there's so much excitement around like investing in women and gender lens. But then you look at the numbers from the last few years, and the needle hasn't moved much, and that's really what got me into it. And we do very small size ticket investing in the Philippines, but I've also set up an angel network, very much to bring other people together, right? Because we can't again solve this problem by one big fund. It needs to be multiple people really kind of rolling their sleeves up and saying, let's back women entrepreneurs who have great models, who may not typically fit the story, are not the ones that the press is writing about, but they have great models and they have great conviction, and we need to back them. That's really what got me interested, and we're doing something very similar in India with the Mission Network as well.
Right, ma'am. So my next question is addressed to Dr. Punita Duhan. Ma'am, what is your personal experience about a growing feeling amongst the students to acquire skills related to industry rather than going for a normal academic course?
See, ultimately, of course, not all of us go for entrepreneurial journey, but all of us need to have a livelihood. And for that, in order to earn that livelihood, it is essential that we are employable. And for that, skills are essential. Merely accumulating degrees, merely having that high CGPA doesn't take us anywhere. And of late, it has been felt by industry as well as by various academic AICT, UGC, that our youth are becoming unemployable, and that's why this all focus on skilling. And of course, students are also, we are seeing that students are also not interested only in rote learning or memorizing those theories, and it really doesn't take them anywhere until unless they know how to apply it in day-to-day work. We are not able to, even I know as teachers, we are not able to hold their interest. So when we change this entire mode of delivery, and when we have started changing our curriculums, incorporating more application part, yes, interest of the student in classes is more. They are more keen to be in classes. They are more keen to practice it. A role we do role models, we do role modeling in the class, case studies, small application part in DS. The courses which we have, they are highly aligned to the industry needs. Rather, in our curriculum design also, we have roped in the industry people, so that they can tell us what are the demands of the industry, so that we can plug. There's always a gap between what academia is delivering and what industry is wanting. So we are trying to bridge that gap. Of course, 100% gap perhaps can never be removed, but we are trying to walk little more towards them, and they're trying to help us in bringing our students closer to their needs. Like if I quote an example, the BBA retail program, which is running in my campus particularly, and Meghna is looking after that, and is contributing in a big way. In that program, we have inbuilt component of 3 days OJT, on the job training, from the day one. And in my campus, we have placed all the students into industries in and around Delhi, and for 3 days in a week, every week, these students compulsorily going to the industry. 3 days they are in the classes, 3 days they are in the workplaces. So from the day one, they are earning, they are getting exposure to what is going to be there tomorrow, and they can say they can acquire the skills which they feel, the skill set which they feel that is lacking in them. When they are going to the workplaces on a weekly basis, they can come and brush up that, sharpen that in the classroom. So that kind of a thing is really needed, and yes, students are also motivated to acquire these skills. Of course, we need to bring it up. We have been running a system in which marks are more valued. I can say for sure that all of us were pressed hard by our parents to have those 90%, 95%, 99% on our report cards, but that really doesn't help until unless those 99 can be translated into some skills. I remember when I was class 4th, we were taught to write an application. And we are taught, we teach our students to write an application in government schools. Say the English starts from 6th onwards. Some private schools, we start studying English as a subject from class 1, or less or more. Almost all of us start learning writing an application, the simple sick leave. We start with the sick leave from class 4th, and it is invariably a component till class 12th. Of course, at times you're asked to write about fee concession, at times you're asked to write about something else, but this writing an application, formal letter to your school principal or to some other organization, is an integral part of from class 4th to class 12th. But when you ask a student to write an application, when they come to us, and many times I ask, okay, bring an application, whatever your concern is, write an application to me, I look into that. They fail to do that. So what those 99 marks on your mark sheet translate to? 0. If you are not able to see, that was a knowledge imparted to you, how to write. To लिखना है, उसके बाद किसको एड्रेस किया है, एड्रेसी का एड्रेस होगा, then subject लिखेंगे या body main message होगा उसमें. We were taught that, but we couldn't acquire that. We couldn't translate that into an application. You couldn't translate that into a skill, something so mundane, for which you have been taught for so many years. And I've seen people with very high degrees also struggling in writing an application. I've seen my colleagues, नहीं लिखा जा रहा है, आप प्लीज मुझे हेल्प कर देंगे. So this is what has been lacking. And yes, we need to motivate students. We are motivating also, and students are also willing to learn. Definitely they are willing, because they know it is related to the employability later on. We need to put it across to the parents as well now, that only those marks will not take your word anywhere until unless this is able to this is translated to the skills. Thank you. I hope I answered
Completely.
your question.
Yeah, can I
Completely
add
agree.
to that? Very rightly
Sure.
said, Dr. Punita. In fact, a lot of students from universities approach us, and I would say they are motivated in terms of they are telling us that it's not the marks, they are not concerned about that. But when we go and participate in certain entrepreneurial events, which are a lot, nowadays, even at the international level, where they want to participate, show their ideas, they take our support, and we are happy to help them. We are supporting IIT Delhi and many other universities to tell them how their ideas can actually be put in the right manner, in the right business plan, in the right documentation. And they're really motivated when they see that there is a real life way to implement it. Because when they are out of their university or graduation, they are seeing that that is the value addition that they have actually got in terms of being associated with a real corporate or a real working company, where they are able to sort of learn those real life challenges and implement them.
Exactly. And that is what prepares them for their later lives. Until unless you know how to utilize it, for that there are multiple examples for that. Most of the times we are never taught in schools and colleges that whatever you are being taught in the class, that is not a waste. And that's why they just do a rote learning, and the moment they pass out that particular class, they leave that knowledge behind. The cross skilling is missing. If I know a particular knowledge in one field, why can't I apply it in another field? So that kind of a thing, we really need to tell them. As an academician, we really need to tell them. They are also once they know and once they are made to understand how it is going to help them later on, they are definitely motivated to learn that. Thank you.
Very true, ma'am. Thank you so much. Moving over to Miss Urvisha. Ma'am, since we have many budding entrepreneurs with us, would you like to share a few tips on what they should keep in mind to prepare a perfect pitch to investors?
Well, in terms of preparing a pitch deck, it would be, getting your ideas conveyed in the best possible manner. Because what happens is many times ideas are there, there are great innovative ideas, but it's very difficult for them to put it on paper sometimes. So that's where we come into the picture, to make sure that the investors don't miss out on seeing that the innovative ideas do need to be funded today, apart from just seeing the monetary things. Because yes, of course, the scalability has to be there for any investor to put in money in terms of getting the returns, etc. But in today's day and age, considering that we do need to see long-term thinking, and as I spoke about sustainable businesses, etc., where you need more funding, I would say that entrepreneurs, all they need to do is get that strategy in place, the right way of, the roadmap or the way they want to achieve small targets, because you can't go all in from day one. As Priya had rightly mentioned, that entrepreneurship is a journey. So you have to take every small step. And for women entrepreneurs, especially, I would say that they are they fight back. They have that higher resilience, I would say, compared to men, because they don't give up very easily. They're extremely hardworking. Let me tell you that they are very passionate if they are given the right opportunity, because they can definitely deliver what is needed once they make up their mind. So I would say that once, yes, you have the knowledge about how you want to go about building your business, you will be able to make the right pitch deck.
Makes sense, ma'am. So my next question is to Miss Priya. Ma'am, being an investor, what would be your advice to the women entrepreneurs who are trying to raise funds from investors, and also how Unlock Impact has helped them in making their startup stand on their feet?
Sure. I think, first, like everything that Urvisha said, we should just absorb. But I think there are a few things that all investors are looking for, right? The pitch and the kind of the documents that you have, of course, is like one part of it. But number one, especially at the early stages where it really is a struggle, we are looking at the people, the entrepreneurs behind that idea or the team. In many cases, these lot of ideas have sort of been done, or some version of the models actually already exist, but they probably have a better way to do it, or there's like a new innovation or a tweak that the entrepreneurs are bringing about, or there is a sustainability angle, there's an impact business. But at the core of it, investors are investing in people and the ability. So who you are, who's your co-founding team, who are you sort of bringing together, and can you execute this amazing idea or this model that you've sort of put together is a key question. I think for women entrepreneurs, I think Urvisha touched on this, are some of the big challenges, right? Today, the status quo is that women entrepreneurs are receiving significantly far less funding compared to their male counterparts, compared to mixed teams, right? So if you're a solo women entrepreneur, you're like all women on your team or on your management team, it is harder. So we have to address that. There's people can argue it any way around and kind of be upset that that's all we're talking about, but it's the reality. The numbers speak for it. And this is not only venture capital, which is what gets quoted a lot, that only 2% of venture capital globally goes to women, and it hasn't changed much. But this is also the case with financial institutions, financial product, despite there being a number of products right out there which are dedicated to women entrepreneurs. It's also the case when it comes to sort of angel investing, etc. So now there are a few reasons why this happens. Number one is perception. I think there is a perception of that women-led businesses, especially solo businesses, will not grow. Very often they don't fit into the narrative of what especially venture capital investors are looking for. There is also a natural or very common challenge around financials and being confident about your numbers and preparing kind of financial documents that Urvisha was talking about. And so there needs to be that additional focus around two things, right? One is to own your narrative. And I think there are two things. You have to decide what kind of business you are building. Is this a business that you want to stay in for the next 20, 30 years? Is it a business that you want to really grow in the next 10 years and then you want to sell, or, you want to go to sort of the tech company path, or you want to kind of, stay small, impact the community that you're working on. And all of these types of businesses are okay. I think today the narrative, there's a lot of pressure around success only this way or not. I think the first thing that I would kind of say is that, own your narrative and decide, what are the terms of success for yourself, right? And you could be any of these. You could be that fast growing kind of next unicorn. You could also be a small business and create, enough income for yourself and your family and your communities. And, you can define success any of these ways. Once you kind of know that, and then, I think it's really what type of business do you want to build, right? That will allow you to decide what kind of capital you want to bring into your company. Is it really just mostly from family and friends or sort of angel investors, or do you want to go after venture capital? And that having a little bit of clarity, even at the early stages, will really help cut a lot of pain. And we may not know, our opinion might change, the opportunities may change, but at every stage that you are in as an entrepreneur, knowing that will help. And I think the other side to it is that most often the power dynamics is the wrong way, right? Like the investors have all the power and the entrepreneurs are looking for capital. But it's very, very important to do diligence on your investor, to find people who are, aligned to your values, your value system as an entrepreneur, as a person, because investment is a long-term relationship, like any marriage or friendship, and you have to kind of, have a certain underlying chemistry and an alignment in your value system to make that work. So attracting and kind of finding out more about the investor as much as they are finding out about you is very, very important. And this is something that we focus a lot on at Unlock Impact. And the third piece is your own leadership style and who you want to be, the type of leader that you want to be. And for us at Unlock Impact, that's a big piece of what we really focus on, other than the capital, because a lot of the times women, we start out as like one person or two people, and then our teams start growing, and we have to upskill ourselves to be really unlock the potential of the leader in us. And navigating all these biases that we spoke about is not easy, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to put for many single mothers out there who are trying to run businesses, solo entrepreneurs who are trying to put food on the table but also run a business, also wear the other hat of fulfilling your family duties, whether it's to your kids or you're to elderly parents. There are so many roles that women play, far more than our male counterparts. And so I think for us, really capacitating yourself to be kind of the best leader that you can be, giving yourself the power of tools, right? Tooling yourself on how to fight the bias, how to address, how to navigate kind of the fundraising journey. These are all important things. So I would say that's kind of the third piece, is really kind of skilling yourself. And that's what really we are focused on at Unlock Impact, and specifically through our new platform, New Shoe Network. We're really focused on helping women figure out what does success mean to you? How do you really be the best version or the best leader that you can be, and to grow, really kind of inclusive teams and build sort of sustainable businesses? And how do you access capital that is suited for you and the kind of business and the entrepreneur that you want to be?
Thank you so much, ma'am. My last question to Dr. Punita Duhan is whether the industry is contented with the current system, or it feels that the traditional education has failed to provide it with suitable workforce. How is DSEU is going to help the students in making them ready for the industry?
See, to the first part of your question, answer is no. Industry doesn't find a students employable at all, and the figures speak for itself. As if I can give you the statistics, the engineers, the MBAs, they are being offered a salary of 6,000, 7,000 in engineering graduates. I remember it was in 2012. My husband happens to work in corporate, though now he no longer works there. He is an entrepreneur himself now. So at that point of time, my driver used to earn 12,000 per month, and the engineers working under him were earning 6,000 or 7,000 per month. So that itself speaks of the kind of workforce we are producing. Many colleges have been shut down, especially majority are in the technical education, this engineering colleges and MBA colleges, because of the lack of skills in our lack of employable skills in our youth. And the new education policy has turned a new chapter. I'll say it is a new vision which is there. We are now trying to focus on the skills. You're not trying to focus on just the content and awarded degree. DSU has an important role to play here. As I told earlier as well, we are aligning our courses with the industry. Most of the courses curriculums have been designed by the industry people with the help of the industry people. So and we have incorporated industry institute interactions in a big way. The way we are trying to shape our interaction with industry is really unparalleled. It be it in terms of on-the-job trainings, industry internships, be it industrial expert lectures, training the faculty in, sending the faculty to the corporate, because that is also an area wherein we lack. Many of the academicians have never been exposed to the work environment. So they have grown into that theoretical they have studied in that theoretical thing, and now they are imparting that too without any practical knowledge themselves. Until as they have some exposure, they will not be able to. So we are working on a plan. Obviously many things are yet to be formalized, but yes, we are our vision is to have a sustainable growth strategy, and to create an entrepreneurial mindset. So we are going ahead with that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to Ms. Urvisha, ma'am, could you please elaborate the role of WICCI to ensure policy level interventions to help women entrepreneurs in running their startups? Also, how can one be a part of the council?
Right. So basically, I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but WICCI has a lot of various councils, right? So if anybody wants to be a part specifically for the startup council, then either they need to themselves have that kind of background where they're either themselves, founders or entrepreneurs, or they are helping or helped startups previously, in some manner through their services. So if at all it fits, their profile in these aspects and respects, then yes, definitely we are happy to onboard them, because the more the merrier for us. We need every helping hand to drive this sort of thing. So that's about WICCI. And to answer your earlier question, so pitch books basically. Sorry, could you just repeat that again, if you don't mind? What exactly was your question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Actually, I was asking, could you please elaborate the role of WICCI to ensure policy level interventions to help women
Right.
entrepreneurs in running their startups?
So as a body, what WICCI Startup Council does is, hold webinars, seminars, etc. One, to create awareness campaigns for women entrepreneurs who are, sort of stuck as to how to start businesses, where they need to register themselves, how to register their entity, get trademarks, copyrights, or whatever things done, get support in terms of marketing activities for digital marketing. So we provide them a lot of knowledge, support them in connecting with the right mentors, be it incubators or the right startup advisory council who can actually help them right from day one in terms of providing end-to-end solution, so that they don't get stuck anywhere and they have a path to follow, in terms of their journey. So WICCI has been doing that, and not just at the offline basis, level, online basis, even at the grassroots level, where obviously WICCI Delhi Council is doing, skilling of people, women entrepreneurs, in Delhi. Similarly, even in Bangalore, Gujarat, and other states, WICCI state presidents have taken up the responsibility of holding, events to upskill, and provide a lot of skill development to women. So that's what WICCI has been doing. And at the national level, we check what are the policies and incentives that are already provided by the government. So it is our duty to check every state policy that the Modi government has provided. And if there is anything lacking, or we find that there is more scope in improvement, then in the budget, we send recommendation letters to the finance minister as to what are the various policies that they need to still implement for making sure that there's growth in women entrepreneurship. So the recommendations are sent by us.
Thank you, ma'am. My next question is to Ms. Priya. Ma'am, since you have been associated with the global organizations like A&E and UN Women, how can we create awareness in connection with business systems for promoting SDG 5, which is about gender equality and empowering all women and girls?
Oh, okay. That's a big question. Let me try to address it. Yeah, so I think we've been very fortunate to work with UN Women. For example, in the Philippines, we've actually collaborated to launch a platform focused on access to finance for women entrepreneurs in the Philippines, and now actually we are expanding that across Southeast Asia, specifically to Myanmar to start with. Given that given the civil situation there, it's really become even harder for women entrepreneurs. And and it's been really, we've also sort of signed up to the Women Empowerment Principles by UN Women to really acknowledge and embrace and sort of adapt that gender lens as an organization ourselves. The SDG really attaining gender equality is really at the center of a lot of conversations right today. And going by just the meaning of International Women's Day and why we're here. And the truth is that if you're not applying a gender lens, or if you're not applying an impact lens, no matter what kind of business that you are, whether you're a large corporation, or if you're a small startup, or you're an intermediary organization, you're not addressing 50% of the market, 50% of the globe, 50% of your workforce, and as it resonated with like all of the speakers here today, gender equality is not something that anyone can achieve in isolation. No one organization or one person or one country is going to be the only reason why we achieve it. It has to be a global human movement, because it is about half the world, right? But how can we do this? I think might be the question. How do we really intentionally decide to apply a gender lens, right? In the sort of investing and sort of startup space, there is an emerging field called gender lens investing, or gender smart investing, and this really means using finance as a tool to address gender equality, right? And you can do this in 2 or 3 ways. Number one, you can support more women entrepreneurs. You can actually commit to investing in more women entrepreneurs. Number two, you can commit to investing or supporting entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial models that are impacting women or girls, right? And number three, you can adopt gender within your own organization. And how do we do that? We do that by making sure there are policies that that eliminate discrimination in our selection process and who we hire. We can do that by creating a safe space for women, right? We are all working virtually, and it's become really, really harder. While it's been great that we can save time on traffic, but almost everyone is juggling many things as they're taking calls or even watching this video stream, right? So how do we make sure that we as organizations have policies and gender is included as part of that? So these are very concrete, very specific ways that we can actually address gender equality. While the last few years we've seen a lot of movements around sort of Me Too, kind of Time's Up, this has still kind of permeated kind of at the surface level. But this now needs to trickle down. It needs to trickle and maybe even go bottom up, right, from our homes into our workplaces, into the world. And there's an action that each of us can take towards contributing to gender equality. It starts, number one, addressing the biases that we have maybe against ourselves or our own sort of immediate surrounding. Number two, call out discrimination when you see it in your workplace. As an entrepreneur, embrace a gender lens in your own operations. Support suppliers who are women, right? Go out of your way to make sure that your recruitment process is inclusive of genders, that you're taking in more processes and systems. And when you're out in your public life, again, we have the opportunity to call it out and make sure that we are taking a stand. And these are all things that we can do as individuals. We can do it in our capacity as entrepreneurs. We can do it in our capacity of investors, as government. But it all starts with moving it from kind of this larger, bigger picture of gender equality into very actionable steps, what we can do. And I hope this conversation today kind of has allowed us to do that. Our collaborations, for example, with UN Women or Andy, have been specifically starting with this goal, right, of supporting women entrepreneurs, eliminating kind of this gender financing gap that we feel very strongly about as an organization. But we've converted that into very actionable steps, building a community of support for women entrepreneurs, finding peers who you can share a story with. You tell a story of being asked an extremely difficult question, or being asked if you're running a hobby business or a lifestyle business when you've pitched. That will resonate with 50 other women entrepreneurs in our community, right? Because they're all constantly. So sharing our stories, amplifying the voices of women is something that all of us can do wherever we are. And I hope if there's something that we take away as an action step, that's somewhere we can start. There are authentic stories. There are women in your life, in your workplace, who need support, who may not have their agency yet, or who may not have a platform to raise their voices. We can do that. If you are an empowered woman, or if you are fortunate enough or privileged enough to have the education or a platform, let's support each other. Let's join hands with our male allies, because we all need to sit together at this table together to address this. And that's the only way we're going to squash or ever get to a world where we're all happy and we can say that this is an inclusive or a gender equal world.
Thank you for answering our questions, all of you. So now we would like to extend our questions to our audience. So guys, please drop in your questions for our panelists so they can answer it. So Jay says it was an amazing session. Kudos to you all. WICCI being majorly a women-dominated organization, I really want to contribute my bit to it. Are male candidate allowed to be a part of it? If yes, how?
Yeah, so basically the reason why we've had women for WICCI, for joining as a council member is because, Dr. Harbeen, who is the founder of WICCI, she'll be able to answer that in a better manner. But I think it was mainly to make sure that we have the strength of women to sort of explain what are the challenges, that each women face. And that would be, much more easier coming out from a woman herself, and would be more easier to address those challenges compared to probably if let's say a woman is not very comfortable talking about certain problems or issues with men, then they can at least have this kind of forum where they can sort of put in their views and the challenges that they are facing. So to answer your question, no, this is only for women. If men want to support, they're obviously more than welcome to support women entrepreneurs in, either providing services to them or helping them in terms of, connecting them to various business representatives or where you think they can probably grow and scale their businesses. So any supporting activities are always welcome from men.
I hope it answered Jay's question. Now, Tanya says, Ms. Thachadi, it was disheartening to hear about the bias you faced when it comes to expressing your opinions and publicly and how they weren't acknowledged by most people. My question pertains to girls and women who face such bias not only in the workplace but in their own houses, often by women relatives only. Panelists, what would be your advice for such girls to have their opinions heard and acknowledged?
Dr. Punita, you want to go first?
No, please, you go ahead.
Sure. I mean, thank you so much. Thanks for sort of acknowledging it. But, I think all of us as women face this constantly. I will, of course, defer to my sort of fellow panelists to kind of address the specific question. See, I think given the society that we are in and coming out of, colonial past, patriarchal society, it's not only men who have the bias, right? I think all of us do as women, because we've been conditioned to think in a certain way, and we are now having the opportunity to break out of this, right? You heard the generational story of Dr. Punita and her mom, right? And where the progress that has been made. And not everyone has the opportunity to stand up and speak loudly and kind of fight their way. That's not the story of all women, unfortunately. We wish it could be that way, right? Like we could just stand up and fight, and then the kind of path opens for us. Sometimes it takes time, and sometimes it can be extremely lonely. So if you are a young person today and you're really struggling, and you do have you're not getting anywhere, even with some of the women in your life. That is the story of millions of girls in this country. You are not alone. I think that's the first thing to know. But I think the second thing is that, you have to look at the system and see if there's someone else that you could reach out to, right? Is there a teacher? Is there a friend? Is there, someone else in your extended family who can understand you? Is there an auntie, right? Or it could be an uncle, whoever it may be. It could be a brother. Is there someone who can understand your story and where you're coming from? This could be, that you're not allowed to work, or you're not allowed to follow a certain career path you want to, or if you're not allowed to leave the house. It could be anything, right? The varying degree of kind of the challenges that we might face or that is being implemented by women in our lives, I think varies. It's very difficult if anyone is in this situation. I think it's very difficult, but I think it's about taking the steps, finding ways to empower yourself, whether it's through, finding an education. If you're not allowed to study, finding other ways today to access information that allows you to get out of that situation. But I would also say try to reach out for support. If not from your immediate family or extended family or friends or other networks, right? There are a lot of helplines out there that who you can talk to. There are lots of amazing women's organizations across this country, who can allow you to be empowered and skilled. That might be a step. It's really, it hits us the hardest when it comes from those who love us the most or those who are supposed to protect us. But unfortunately, that is the society that all of us live in, no matter which country, right? Because we have the social conditioning. So I would say we have to find a way to find our voice and our path. Very difficult when everything is kind of restricted, but try to find the support in your extended circles or sort of networks that might be outside of the family. I think today, on our phones, we can reach a lot of information. So use that to your advantage. And I really wish you all the luck, and I'll pass it to Urvisha, Dr. Punita, to share their perspective.
Thank you, Priya, for explaining it in such a nice manner. Yes, it's true. You are not alone, dear, in this world to face the biases. Despite having so much development, we are seeing so many biases already broken. Still, there is a lot which needs to be achieved. And mind it, only the females do not face the biases. It is the males as well. Being in academic institutions, we come across situations on a daily basis. Only a week back, a student was pleading me that, ma'am, please tell my father to let me study. So it is not the females who are facing the biases. Even the males are facing biases. There are male students who are not allowed to study certain courses. As it is for the females, same is true for the males as well. Some career choices are not because of those stereotypes associated, and many times it is not discrimination can come in any shape or size or color. Like Priya faced it for the color of her skin. That was also a discrimination. That was also a bias. Same, you can face it for your looks, for your color of skin, your ethnicity, for your background. But be confident. Yes, of course, it's not so easy. It is never easy to fight with the system, with the social settings, with certain things going on for ages. It takes time. At times, your own, and as Priya rightly pointed out, the most difficult part is to fight your near dear ones, because you are emotionally connected to them. You feel, why these people? You can fight with all the people outside, but when it comes to family, it becomes difficult to fight. But then, yes, you need to find a support system. And you have to channelize your energies in such a manner that sooner or later you can have your way around. I will not name a person. She has been my classmate, and right now she is a big TV personality. She also faced biases, but she had her way. She was hell bent to become, go to the. She wanted to pursue a career in acting, and she is successful, very successful. She is she is she is been a lead actor in one of the TV programs, but her parents did not allow her to pursue this initially, despite being educated. Both the parents were educated, but they did not allow her. They forced her to complete her masters first, get a first class in her masters, clear the net qualifications, so that, because that bias is there, you will not be successful in acting, then what will happen to you? So do this, only then you will be allowed to go to NST. She did her masters with first class, cleared her net, gave it to her parents, and joined NSD. And today she's successful. So it is not only no, behind every successful story there are lots of struggles and biases we all have to face. Not that always the family is supportive. Maybe one person is supportive, like I'm married, maybe my husband is more supportive, my in-laws are not supportive, maybe they are supportive, the other immediate family members are not supportive. So it is not that it will be going to be easy walk for you. No, it is going to be a tough journey. It is, you have to fight, constantly fight. At times you feel that you should give up, but no, persistence and perseverance will take you far ahead. So yes, find out a support system. There are people who are ready to help you, and who can counsel your family members too. There are people. So yes, this is the only way out. It is a bad world out there for all of us in various ways, and we have to figure out a way for us. Thank you.
Tanya, I hope your question was answered, and thank you, ma'am, for answering it in such a beautiful way. So, before ending the session, I would like to tell you guys that the keynote speech of Miss Stephanie Pinker, which could not be played in the platform due to some technical issues, have been added on our YouTube channel and can be viewed by everyone after this live session ends. So, we are indeed grateful to all our esteemed panelists who have spared their valuable time to be with us today. And I'm sure that your suggestions and wonderful advice would go a long way in helping all of us in our respective journeys. So, thanks a lot, and have a good night. Thank you so much. Thank you, audience.
Thank you. Thank you for
you.
having us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.